Hi, I'm Brittney Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Can you believe we're already on Monday again? Feels like a whirlwind / summertime right now with 2 kiddos. Thank you for everyone listening. You're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, and I'm your host, Brittney Ashley, and we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Get ready to escape the next hour as we break norms and build dreams with Tanya. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Brittney, for having me. I'm just super excited to be here and obviously connect with your listeners. It's awesome.
Yes, I'm so excited. So Tanya and I have known each other for a little bit because I've been prepping Tanya that we're coming on the show. I can't believe because we chatted in January, I believe. It feels like forever, but not really because it's come so fast. So Tanya is an accredited financial counselor of Canada and the founder of FinSmart Financial Smarts to live your best life. She is a personal finance educator, expert money coach, financial wellness advocate. Tanya works with individuals and couples to help them master their money so they can live their best life today and in the future. Tanya was born and raised in Vancouver BC and now lives in Campbell River, which is actually my hometown, on Vancouver Island before establishing FinSmart. Tanya enjoys a successful and rewarding corporate career with leading companies and was one of the early pioneers of corporate community investments. I'm so excited to have you. I don't think we've had anyone really dig fully into the financial wellness area yet, so I'm excited to dig in deep today.
Yeah, and if I can just preface that, Brittney, by saying, this is such an important conversation because one of the things that we want to do when we think about money is we want to raise our level of consciousness and the conversation, like the one we're going to have today. And the first, kind of big insight I want to share with your listeners is that financial wellness is part of our overall health. I want people to think of our overall health as a 3-legged stool. We've really mastered what it takes to be physically healthy.
Yes.
We've really made advances on mental health. And now, with this conversation and whatever your listeners do post our conversation, we want to take a focus on our financial health and wellness. And that's why I'm really glad to be here.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I love that you said that because I feel like we've seen such a shift in the advocacy on mental health in all these different areas, but really something as I don't even want to say as simple, but it is simple, but not simple. I just feel like you and I had this conversation when we first chatted that financial wellness and the financial talk should be really ingrained in maybe middle school, high school, early on at the end of the day to really start to educate us as a whole.
Yeah. And we're never done. Finances is part of our life journey. So, we're going to go through many different life stages, from, obviously childhood, young adult, middle years, middle age, and then later on in our later years. And all of our financial needs and priorities are going to shift as we age and go through significant life events. And this is why it's part of our life journey. So to have, engagement around your personal finances and educate yourself is so critical to being successful today and in the future.
100%. Well, before we dig in deeper, do you mind letting the listeners know a little bit about your journey and how you started?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm in my mid-50s. I've got my birthday coming up next week. So I have already experienced, thank you. I've already experienced a few adult stages, right? I've been a young adult. I've been in my middle years, and now I would consider myself more middle age. And I started out going to university and having a corporate career. And you mentioned, working with leading companies. So I worked for a brewery, a telecommunications, insurance, financial services. So I had a corporate career with leading companies in Canada in the areas of marketing and public relations. And as you mentioned, community investment. And some of your listeners who are currently in the corporate world know it can be pretty lean and mean, right? It's obviously very profit driven, shareholder driven. And if you're no longer needed, made redundant, you're cut, and I went through 4 or 5 redundancies in my corporate career. And you have to be prepared for that. We are all expendable in our jobs. Even the president of the United States and the prime minister of Canada lose their jobs. So with that tying into finance, we have to be prepared for job loss in our careers. Okay. So for me, when I was 48, well, actually, let me go back to one other. When I was first in my corporate career at the age of 32, I went through a complete meltdown. I lost my job. I went through a divorce. And I also experienced the dot-com crash, which is a major recession in the 20th century. And all those 3 things happened at once. And that is when I actually took charge of my finances, when I was 32. So I realized, you can't create money out of water, or it doesn't grow on trees. So you have to learn how to manage your money. And that is when I got on the path to financial independence, is when I went through this meltdown and I learned how to manage my money and build wealth. Fast forward 3 or 4, career positions. In 2015, I also left my last corporate gig, and I just had enough, to be honest. It was soul destroying to go through another redundancy. And at that point, Brittney, I found my skills were a little less applicable. The whole digital marketing, the digital economy had really come in. And when you're in your late 40s, you're really a mature worker, competing with the younger generation. So for me, I made the decision at 48 to make a lifestyle and a financial decision to basically relocate from a high cost of living area, which was Vancouver BC, to a lower cost of living area, which is, on Vancouver Island. So that was really my journey, having a corporate career and then basically cashing out and moving to the island. And, there's less corporate opportunities here. So that is when I decided I need to have an encore career. I need to have purpose and impact in the world. And I also want to work for myself. So this is when I launched FinSmart as what I call an encore career, because, we're living longer, healthier lives, well into our 90s. So we need to, have purpose. And for me, that is helping people master their money.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. And I feel like the whole premise too of the radio show, any new listeners as well, it doesn't matter what age you're at. It's just whatever you feel your purpose is and your worthiness is, to step into that fully. And that's the whole premise of the show as well. If any new listeners are listening to us today, but thank you for sharing that. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about your certifications as well that you went through, because I know you and I touched on that last time.
Yeah. So what got me into, creating a career out of personal finance was really in conversation with a friend who was helping out her niece, who was making a lot of poor choices when it came to her money, buying things on loan or credit, and then not having enough at the end of the month for essentials. A lot of people are caught up in the debt cycle, and this is, again, something we want to try to avoid. So as a result of that experience, I said, you know what, I could teach her how to manage her money and make smart financial decisions. These are the 2 key things in order to build wealth. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do this as a career and as a coach, I need to have some credibility. Of course, I have the lived experience and I have a lot of personal experience in managing my finances. But if you're going to be educating others and giving guidance, you really need to have an accreditation. So this is when I discovered the Accredited Financial Counselor designation. It's really a massive program out of the US, which has been adapted to Canada as well. So it's the AFC in the US and the AFCC in Canada, and you can look that up on the web. to learn more. But basically, it requires me to go through a course on personal finance, financial counseling, and you have to have at least 1,000 hours of
Wow.
client service in order to achieve the designation. So I was able to do that by April of 2020. And so I've been, certified ever since, and you have to do ongoing education. So that gave me the credibility to say to people, I'm qualified to serve you and to support you in your personal finance journey.
Mhm. I was actually going to ask too, because we have a lot of US listeners. So your credentials, you can work with anybody all over the world, Canada,
Yes.
US.
Yeah. I mean, I want to make a point clear to your listeners. There's a lot of, finance experts out there, whether, it's an insurance agent or a financial planner or a lawyer who does estate planning and a financial coach. So really, what is the difference between, say, myself as a financial counselor and coach and maybe a financial advisor? Well, and we're both complementary. That's one thing I want to say. It's not one or the other. There's
Mhm.
a different in focus. So as a financial counselor and coach, my focus is on helping you manage your money. So the day-to-day finances, looking at, your savings, spending, how you use credit, pay off debt, invest, and build that initial wealth, which
Mhm.
then you would turn to either, a financial advisor or perhaps maybe an online tool to invest that wealth into investment assets such as stocks, bonds, maybe real estate. So this is the difference between money management as a financial coach and wealth management as a financial advisor. That's the kind of high level difference between the two. So as a money manager, these are basic life skills that I can teach anyone around the world, because how you save and spend and use credit is common to all Western nations.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know if this is fully true, but I'm going to guess it's probably true kind of with the track record of just credit cards. And like, I don't even know for myself, like how much cash or change I usually carry on me because I personally hate going to banks. So I'm like, if I can use my credit card or my debit card, I will do it that way. Um, there was somebody saying that the next generation to come, I can't quite remember who it was. Maybe it was the radio show that I was listening to. And they made a comment that the soon to generations, they don't really even know how to utilize money because we're so dependent on plastic than using actual change. What's your intake on that?
I'm so glad you brought this up, Brittany, because this is so true. I mean, we're maybe behind some countries, but cashless society is here. Very few people are using cash. And so you do need to rely on a debit card or a credit card. And, you know, because of that, we are losing more conscious connection to our money. When you're swiping, clicking, tapping,
Hmm.
it's like magic, right? You can't even imagine a young child seeing a parent just tap and click and put in a pin. Like, where's the
Yeah.
transaction? So we really are losing a connection to the value of money and a dollar. And because of that, we have to become more conscious. So
Mhm.
this is the key to what I am helping people learn, which is cash flow management. You know, in the past, you heard this saying, cash is king, right? You can keep, tabs on your money by just using cash. Well, you can't use cash online. A lot of stores are not taking cash, etc. So you need to understand cash flow. So my mantra is cash flow is king. So what is
Mhm.
cash flow? It's basically what's coming into your account and what's going out of your account. That's the flow of cash. So your income is cash flow in, your expenses is cash flow out. And
Mhm.
you need to be able to understand where you are at any one moment so that you're not going massively into debt or into the red, overdraft, or for example, and that you can pay your bills, because you don't want to be carrying credit card balances, based on the high interest rates. So that's why I teach a cash flow money management system. And this is what I taught myself, 24 years ago when I went through that financial meltdown. And I've been using the same system ever since. And it is a game changer. So this is core to being fin smart, is managing your cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any recommendations for, let's just say, parents? Because as you know, I am a parent. Um, when to kind of start teaching your kiddos at a certain age? I was told like the sooner the better, really. So my daughter, for example, is 6.
Yeah, I think it's like, when this is really important to know, we all have a money story, okay? We all get a relationship with money as a result of our upbringing and how our parents use money. Kids observe, they pick up, if you're stressed about money or if you are frivolous with money, or, some people, of course, are in more, low income situations. So that can also have some trauma as you grew up, not having enough quality food, or maybe having, the electricity cut off. So, we all have to reflect on our money story and hopefully just focus and carry those things forward that are positive. So as a parent, you want to be demonstrating really positive, a really healthy, positive, and, proactive relationship with money in front of
Mm-hmm.
your children. So I think that starts, helping them understand that, we have to work to earn money. We have to save in order to go on holiday. We
Mm-hmm.
have to teach people the concept of money and the value. And so it's never too early to demonstrate positive behaviors. Like, for example, if your child's asking for every toy every time you go to a grocery store, you have to set those boundaries. Like, you just can't have everything. You have to choose and have financial priorities. So being really clear on what is appropriate and what you can afford,
Mm-hmm.
or in a case where having them earn, do some chores to earn that toy. So you know what, if you take out the garbage every week over the next 2 months, we can earn that extra toy or that, special gift or something. So I think earning our way through life is a really important skill, because kids today, if they're just given it on a silver platter, you're
Mm-hmm.
not giving them a life skill. You're giving them a free pass, and that's not going to serve them in adulthood.
No, 100%. I think definitely think my daughter thinks money right now grows on trees. I'm educating her. What did she say? I can't remember. What our neighbors are selling the house right now across the street. And she's like, "Yeah, I want a new house." I'm like, "Well, it just doesn't happen like that, buddy." I'm like,
Yeah, just explaining the costs involved, of moving, so that they appreciate, that every financial decision we make has, things that we have to evaluate,
mhm,
and there's always alternatives, like, would you move to a bigger house, a smaller house, a condo, move away? So I think that's really important when you are making smart financial decisions, is to first evaluate your options, be really clear on what's most important to you and what's within your means, right? A lot of people say, living a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget. It's really important to live within your means, below your means, so that you can save and invest for your future self. I
mhm.
mean, that is the two most important, money rules, as I would say, for all of us.
Yeah, I used to work at Blackball, so I would have to deal a lot with money. I would have to like break it down when someone, like, it was always two separate tills as well, so Canadian and US. And so when they would come in, I had to like calculate everything with a tiny little calculator. Like I was so good, it was so fast, but I feel now like if I ever get back like into it, I'd be so slow. Like, give me 1 minute.
Yeah. What would we do without technology? Yeah, we're definitely in the digital age, and it's only going to get more ingrained into our everyday, especially as AI is developed. And again, this is just another important point to make to your listeners, that, none of us is secure in our jobs. And this is why financial wellness is so important, because when AI becomes more and more adopted, it is going to even take away some of the white collar jobs, whether it's a legal assistant or, a radiologist, doing, charts or things. So we have to be prepared for that, because losing income is a time when you need to have a good handle on your finances. Don't wait for that, life event to happen, whether it's a job loss or perhaps a divorce or a death in the family, to get you to, right your finances, because that could be too late. And we all know we're living in an affordability crisis. And I can tell you, I've been basically semi-retired for 8 years, doing this as an encore career. And, if you added up your expenses, you need at least $4,000-$5,000 a month just to cover the basics and have a bit of a life. And that's without a mortgage. So, imagine if you had to pay rent or a mortgage, it would be a lot more. So, that's an exercise I would encourage all of your listeners to do. Add up your expenses, write up, see what your current lifestyle is costing you, and then add that up to an annual basis, and then times that by 20 or 25. And that's going to be kind of what you need for retirement, because we are living longer. So if you're retiring in your 60s and we're living into our 80s, that's 20 years of retirement where you need income. So that's a great exercise, is to see, what is my cost of my life, and do I need to make some lifestyle changes so that I can save more for the future?
Yes, definitely. And also, too, do you have any tips for anyone who might be in credit card debt? I feel like that's a popular one.
Yes. The thing is, once you can get out of credit card debt, then you need to manage your cash flow so that you're always paying that off every single month. And that's what I did. I had a small credit card balance at $1,200, but even $1,200 when you have no money coming in, it's a lot of money just to try to chip that away at $100 a month, say. That's a year. So that's a very small balance. Most people are carrying, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in credit card, which is costing a lot of interest. So the point here is that the best return on your money, it's not necessarily investing in the stock market or real estate. It's paying off your credit card. Because if your credit card is charging you 21 or more % in interest, like what investment is guaranteeing you 21%, right? So think of it that way. So that's why I, first of all, want you to pay it off first. And then I want you to keep it paid off and only, spend on that card what you can pay off every month. Now, if you are struggling with credit card debt, the first thing would be to certainly see if you can lower the interest by getting a consolidated loan. Sometimes if you have a line of credit, you can have a lower interest rate. So that's one way of reducing your interest cost. Another thing you can do, of course, is get a side hustle. Like even if you, do some dog walking, or if you're doing some caregiving for, a senior in your building or something, finding a way to earn a little extra income, even if it's just for 6 months so that you can pay that off. The third thing I would really recommend is look at selling things. There's a lot of, we all are carrying too much stuff in our lives, whether it's an extra pair of boots or a rain jacket, or perhaps a bike or a secondary car. Look at selling some items and putting the proceeds of those sales onto your credit card. Those are just some very basic examples, but it is an important thing because, Brittney, I can say this, a lot of people are struggling with debt, and I empathize fully, and, please have no shame. There's no blame. We're human. We're going to make some financial mistakes, and some things unexpectedly occur in our lives where it costs money. But, get committed, to paying off your debts, because in the 21st century, modern day slaves, we're not in chains, we're not in slavery, to another person. That's well in our past. But when you carry debt, debt is like slavery, because you need to pay off your debt before you can do anything else. And, one of the things I want you to think about when you take on debt, any kind of loan, it robs from your future income. So if you're buying a car that you really can't afford with massive monthly payments, that's got to come off the top every single paycheck or every month. So think of debt as robbing from your future income, and think of debt as modern day slavery, because it can impact your life in a significant way. You could go for foreclosure on your home. You could have a car repossessed. You could certainly have collection agencies after you. So it's a negative thing. And that's why we want to be, living within our means so that we minimize our debt. because there's very little good debt. I don't want to suggest there really is any good debt. We have to live within our means.
Mm-hmm. Talking about good debt, if you could say anything, what would be the one piece that you would say would be considered good debt? Home?
Well, of course, educating yourself, building up your skill set, because when you have skills and knowledge and qualifications, it gives you the potential to earn more money, right? So that's the top of the balance sheet. So of course, education, like if you're going to go and get, a diploma or a degree, as an accountant, or maybe become a nurse, I highly recommend investing in skills that are going to be resilient into the future, right? We know the healthcare system is, desperately in need of workers. We know that being, a lawyer, is probably going to be required. We're always going to have the legal system. So, and plumbers and electricians. So I'm really big on investing in skills that are resilient to technological change, right? You have to think about that. You have to think about the long term, and then you have to continually upgrade your skills. So if you need, like for myself as a marketing person, if I wanted to maintain my marketing skill set, I would have to go back and really dial up on digital marketing. That's not what I learned in university. So that's good debt. But again, for me, investing in yourself is only good debt if it's going to help you increase your earning potential and and increase your resilience as an employee or as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. I love that. We're almost midway here, so I'll just kind of do the thank you for tuning in, and then we'll dig in before the next question, because I feel like we'll get lost in that area. For all the listeners, you're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. We're live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. That's so interesting that you broke that up that way, because I always made a joke about like I could have been like a doctor or anything like that, because I'm always wanting to go to school and advance my self-learning, from my coaching to anything underneath the sun, like anything that challenges me. Like I'm always constantly learning something. I think sometimes my husband's like, what are you wanting to learn? Do this? This is probably my first year, I would say, that I have not been registered in school.
Well, you're always learning on the job too, right? There's ways of learning without actually going formally to school. And that's the beauty of, our digital, space. You can learn on YouTube, on free courses online. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. There are many opportunities to learn and develop your skills for free. And I would, encourage all of us to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I never really, I knew about finances, but I really didn't get into learning about finances until university, when I did my BBA, because it was on the prereqs is to go into finance class. And I have to say, it was probably my favorite classes, though, that I learned so much about of like, okay, so if you're having one coffee a day, how does that break down into, like, where else could you put your money?
That's an excellent thing to think about too, is, what is money, right? Well, in order for us to earn money, we have to expend our life energy, right?
Yes.
So as an example, if you have, a car and you're, spending, $500 on a car payment, a couple hundreds on insurance, gas, let's just say that's $1,000 expense.
Mm-hmm.
How many days do you need to work to earn that $1,000 after tax, by the way? So is that, 4 days, 7 days? So, when you think about owning something or buying something, convert that into your life energy. Like, I have to work 5 days every month just to afford this car. Like, is that, the best use of your life energy? Is that the best use of your limited, finances?
Yes.
So these are really, again, going back to that coffee, if you add that up, $25 a week, $100 a month, is that going to pay your internet bill or your cell phone bill? And that's why it does matter, because, we all have, limited, finite resources. So we have to think about what's most important to us. And that's what I call being fin smart, being really clear on what's most important to you. Is it going to, that concert that you love, where you have your social with your friends, or is it, having a coffee, every week or every day on the way to work? So we have to choose.
Sure. I find, any new listener, I'm self-diagnosed with ADHD. And one of the trends with sometimes those with ADHD is going a little crazy on spending. Like, it's an ongoing joke because I have my BBA marketing communication, but I'm easily sold when I go into an aisle. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
It happens. We're human. A lot of our financial decisions are driven by emotion or our subconscious mind. And, this is why I go through an exercise with my clients to really identify their financial goals, a lot, like both in the short, medium, and long term. So they're very clear. Like, I'm not, when I talk about being fin smart, I'm not talking about austerity. I want you to live, but I also want you to live without financial stress. So that's why it's really important to be clear on your financial priorities and goals, and also your values. Like, if your health is, our health is the ultimate wealth. But for example, if, being, in group exercise is really important for you because it gives you that social connection, it gives you the accountability, it gives you that routine. Of course, I'm going to support you spending whatever it is, a week or a month, to do that program. So I say, being fin smart is not austerity, it's about alignment. So use your money in alignment with what is most important to you. That's where we live our best lives, right? It's making sure that we're looking after our, needs and aspirations, not someone else's. So, that's why we don't want to compare ourselves to our neighbors, to our friends, to the influencers on social media, because we all have unique circumstances. We all have unique aspirations, and we should just be focused on that, because comparison is the thief of joy. It's not going to make you feel good if you're comparing your life with someone else's, because you're comparing something completely different. So it's really important to be clear on what Brittney wants and what Brittney's strengths are, and cater to those, in all aspects of your life.
I would love to talk a little bit more on women and financial empowerment, because I find that sometimes we as women rely on sometimes the husband or a partner who might be a little bit more financially, have a little bit more financial awareness, I guess I would say. So then you just kind of naturally just hand the torches over to them and you just kind of back away and just do your own thing.
Yes, that happens in a lot of relationships. And, it's always good to have someone who has, maybe that money manager could be the mom, the wife, or whatever, and the gentleman could be more in the investment. But the important thing is to have cross knowledge and communication. Like, never just abdicate any aspect of your financial life to someone else. Okay. That puts you in obviously a vulnerable and perhaps risky position. We could have a whole conversation about this, but let me just say one thing when it comes to women. There is if you are a married woman, this is the statistic. If you are married, you have a 90% chance of having to look after your entire financial life for an average of 9 years.
Crazy.
As the result of divorce or the loss of a spouse.
That's crazy.
So of course, it's 100% if you're single, but 90% chance if you're married, you're going to have to look after your financial affairs. Can you imagine, deer in the headlights? If you don't know anything about your finances, that puts you in a very, very vulnerable position. So please, ladies, we also on average live 5 years longer than men. So the first stage of being a financially independent woman is to have full awareness of your entire financial life. What assets do you have, in terms of the house and what's involved with that, like the mortgage or the deed. In terms of your investments, where are the investments? What are the investments individually? Have you got other assets, like another recreational property? What's the estate plan? There's so much to know. And again, as a financial coach and counselor, this is what I will take you through so that you have full awareness. And as a woman, we also make less money than men. We know about the gender pay gap, but guess what? That pay gap actually gets bigger as we age and as we go through our careers. This is why we end up with a lot less wealth in retirement than compared to men. It's about 30 to 40% less.
That's crazy.
And it's partly because of the gender wealth gap. We make less, therefore we save and invest less, but it's also because we are still the primary caregivers, whether it's for children or parents. So I want women to, understand that we are behind the 8 ball. Like, we are already in a disadvantaged position. That's why it's even more important for women to take charge of their financial life, because there's so many things that are causing us to be challenged, whether it's the wages, the longevity of our lives, or let's talk about the pink tax, right? We spend a lot more on personal services, and we also have a higher cost for those services, whether it's getting haircuts or what have you. So I just want women to realize that the earlier you can start focusing on your financial wellness, the better and more confident you will be as you get older.
Love that. Would you recommend for someone, anyone listening, a woman just starting and maybe they're in a marriage and they've just let them just take control of it, what would be their first step to take a little bit more of that financial wellness for them?
Yeah, well, first of all, it can be an emotionally charged subject in relationships. One thing about money is that depending on your personal circumstances, it could be a source of conflict and stress. So the first thing I suggest is setting up a time specifically to have that conversation. Like, don't just do it on spur of the moment, because you need to be ready to have that conversation. You want a quiet space. You want to be, in a good emotional state, because this is a topic that is going to benefit both of you and your family, right? This is, you are in a financial relationship, common law, married, roommates, what have you. So the first thing is to approach it with no emotional charge. Like, you want to come from a place of peace, so to speak. And set up a time, like, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon when you're both relaxing, you don't have a lot of activities around. Hey, babe, I wonder if we could have a chat. So the first thing is, it's really, again, about your wellness, your financial wellness. Honey, I'd love to have a chat and learn a little bit more about our financial life so that I'm prepared in the event that something happens to you or me. Like, we need to know where it's at. And I mean, a coach can help with this conversation, but the first thing I would do is let's do a net worth statement. And a net worth statement is basically a listing of all of your assets, whether that's a home, investments, whether it's a 401k or an RRSP in Canada or TFSA, whatever your investment accounts are. Pension information is another one. And also other assets, whether you have gold or vehicles, so let's list all of your assets, and then you want to list all of your liabilities. So you're really clear on what is your net worth. So your liabilities, of course, is your mortgage, credit cards, personal loans, maybe even back taxes that you might owe to the CRA or the IRS. So get a really clear picture, because when you subtract your liabilities from your assets, you get your net worth. And this, in my view, is one of the most important numbers in personal finance, because net worth is a number that we can track over time, and it is the best indication of our wealth and our ability to retire or to, survive without income, for a period of time. So we all need to know our net worth. And the other number that you could work on as a couple is your net income. And your net income is basically all your revenue or income less all of your expenses. And then what is left over, your net income, that is what you can be using for saving, obviously paying off debt and investing for the future. So net income and net worth are two numbers I think as a couple, that would be a great starting point to getting a good sense of where you are financially and where is all of your financial assets.
I love that. It makes me think. I used to think that I wanted to be an accountant a long time ago. I went down that avenue. In high school, we actually had it as an extra. What are those? Like an extra, a quick. What? I can't think of the word. Instead of going to the gym, I can do this. And I went and did accounting because I thought that one, it would be beneficial, but I really thought I wanted to be an accountant. So I ventured into doing internships my first summer in high school. And I was like, oh, this is kind of boring though. It was so quiet.
Yeah, some people love finances. I have to, if people are, afraid of finances or don't like numbers or just don't feel confident, let me just say this. It's actually not complicated, okay? When you educate yourself, when it comes to your net income or net worth, it's basically one number minus another number. Like that's very basic. Like all of us can do addition and subtraction. So there's nothing crazy about, managing your money. It's all just adding and subtracting. And when it comes to investments, again, working with a coach like myself or educating yourself through, blogs or YouTube or, influencers online, learning about, different types of investments. Once you educate yourself, it becomes more clear. And again, this is part of being financially independent, is having that knowledge so that you have the competence to make financial decisions, whether how to invest, where to invest. And I think a lot of the financial institutions want you to be feeling confused and overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be that way. I basically can explain investing to my clients in an hour and get them really clear on how it works. I use a lot of different graphs because I think the financial industry takes advantage of our lack of knowledge to sell us things we don't need, to charge us high fees. And this is cutting into our ability to build wealth. So this is, again, why it's so important to become FinSmart, right? Financially smart, because you can probably build wealth, or cut out some of the cost or build wealth. I call it $150,000 to $200,000 over our lifetime, just by making smart financial decisions and avoiding financial mistakes. This is where, you can really make up some ground, and as they say, it's not how much money you make, it's how well you manage the money you do make. That's what builds wealth, because there are people living paycheck to paycheck at all income levels, right? It really doesn't, income is not the determiner as to how much wealth you can build over your lifetime. It's all about how you manage what you have.
Do you have any kind of tips for entrepreneurs? Because entrepreneurship in a nutshell is a roller coaster. Some months could be pretty steady. Some months can be pretty the other way around.
Yeah. Well, for all of us, whether you're in business for yourself or another, we all need to have an emergency fund. We all need to have some liquid cash available to, navigate those life events or unexpected expenses. One thing I do, again, get real with people is that, if you look back on our history, the next economic shock or the next unexpected expense is just around the corner. Like it's going to happen. So we need to be prepared. And so as an entrepreneur, of course, I recommend that you have, upwards of 12 months of living expenses available to you, because it's going to take a while to, obviously build up revenue and consistent revenue. And, you want to, again, minimize financial stress. Financial stress is probably the worst. It can affect our physical and our mental health. So I really recommend entrepreneurs be financially ready for that variable income, for one. And if you don't have the full amount of living expenses, you need to have what I call an emergency plan. So whether that's having a line of credit that you could access, it's, changing your living situation, where you might get a roommate or rent out a room so you can generate some extra income, or you have a side hustle or a hobby that you can turn into something that generates some money. So having a backup income stream is really important, I think, as an entrepreneur. So just be planning it. And that's why I love my money management system, because it does look into the future, 6, 8, 12 months down the road. And it shows you what your cash flow is going to be needing in order to, look after your financial obligations.
I love that. I find, well, I never niche. I'm a marketer that didn't niche. But like with my business, I never niched, and really it helped us kind of navigate during COVID and some, because we didn't really let's just focus in and offer VA OBM service for food and beverage services. We went to the masses, really. And I think that really helped us. And then I'm always constantly looking at what specialties can I add as an entrepreneur to me to add that service on top of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's, what a lot of businesses do. We call that increasing the transaction value. So, looking at how you can add on, because it's always easier to, sell to an existing customer than it is to get a new customer. So if you have a customer base, how can you increase the transaction value? And that would be, adding in, maybe a membership program, or maybe, additional services. So I think that's wonderful that you've kept yourself open. And then once you, have more demand than you have supply, that's when you can start picking and choosing your highest value clients.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have any intake on mindset? I know we
Yes,
talked a little bit.
Yeah, mindset is so important. I mean, I talked about the money story earlier, and that's really about, how your relationship with money that you developed from your childhood. Now that could be both positive and negative, like, again, if you had a parent that just, was living paycheck to paycheck every month, or fighting off debt collectors, that's an unhealthy relationship with money. So this is why, with my company, FinSmart, I love talking to people like, that's your mindset. I want you to be FinSmart. I want you to be financially smart. And so I actually have created what I call the FinSmart Pledge to Financial Independence. And this is, a way to, I guess, develop that healthy, positive relationship with money. And I get my clients to print the pledge and to sign it and to put it in a visible location in their, home or office. And this just keeps us grounded, because I mentioned earlier, Brittney, that so many of our decisions that we make on a daily basis are made with our subconscious mind. Like, we don't really think about it. Like if you're going to the grocery store, you just putting things in your basket without even thinking if you really need it, if it's good value for money this week. So the FinSmart Pledge to Financial Independence is trying to help you create that positive, healthy mindset. And I'll just, give you a couple of the pledges. The first one is, I pledge to understand and have full awareness of my finances, right? I need to know how do I spend? How am I saving? How am I investing? How am I planning or protecting my future? I want you to know everything there is to know about your finances. And so that exercise in itself is going to raise your consciousness just by knowing where you are, right? Because we can't do mental accounting. We have to dig in and get into the weeds and have those conversations with our partner or within our families as to, where we're at. The second pledge is to live below your means so that you can save for your future self. And that your future self could be in 3 months, in 6 months, in 10 years, 30 years. The point I want people to know is that, first of all, your future self depends on your present self, right? Like, it's kind of like looking after your health. If you don't look after your health today, you could be facing, illness and disease in your future. So it's like, if you're not looking after your finances today, you could be, suffering from, a lack of the ability to afford the essentials if you're not thinking about it in the future. But here's a mindset tip when it comes to spending money or saving money, pardon me. So when you are saving money, I want you to know that saving is future spending. So you talked about being that person who wants to be, kind of get out spending. You have this, we all have done retail therapy. Now, again, we're not going to be perfect. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, just be spontaneous once in a while and just enjoy life, because that's why we're here. But I want you to also have that mindset, is this aligned with my values, my goals, and the vision I have for my life, as how I'm spending this money, because everything has an opportunity cost. If you buy a brand new car with, payments for the next 7 years, well, that's going to limit your ability to use that money in any other way. Like, that's significant. So I think it's important to know that when you save money, it gives you the ability to spend money in the future on things that are important to you, or to help you navigate those life events or unexpected expenses.
Like, I guess it's been almost a year now, but we purchased a smart car, not a Tesla, and I can't remember, something that my husband picked out. I just know it takes me from A to Z. However, I do know we've saved a lot of money, because when I had my Mitsubishi, I had to take it in for maintenance every 6 months. We're spending over $1,000 at least to keep it in the maintenance side of things. And like, we just took the smart car in to get tuned up, whichever. It cost us $15 out of the year and a half that we've had it. And how much money we've been saving on gas too. We estimated that we would on average be paying between $400 to $500 a month in gas with how much we travel. And so, like, really, the car in itself has written off. And so now we're thinking, like, because we have a gas car, we're like, well, maybe we should just all go electric.
Again, every household is going to be different, but the one, rule that we have when it comes to car buying, obviously, if you can pay cash for your car, that's the way to go. Like, save up the money, pay cash. A car is a tool. It should not be a reflection of our, personality. Like, I feel like a Porsche, I should buy a Porsche. Or, we have to buy a practical tool if it's needed. And the best thing to do, of course, is to pay cash. And the other best thing to do, of course, is to buy a used car. And if you have to finance it, don't finance it any more than 4 years, and make sure that the total cost of your vehicle does not take up more than 10% of your monthly net income. So that's called the 4-20-10 rule of car buying. So I want you to put 20% down at least, finance it over no more than 4 years, and make sure the total cost of ownership, gas, insurance, payment is no more than 10% of your monthly income. The 4-20-10 rule of car buying. That's only if you don't pay in cash for a car. And I do realize some people need a car to earn income. So of course, if you need to finance for a specific vehicle, just do it within means that you can manage, manage the debt for the time that you have the loan.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to say we splurged. It worked in itself, because I was able to sell my car for exactly what I bought it for, because right now gas vehicles, it was ridiculous. I bought it for $17,500 and we got like 17 for it.
Yeah, that's impressive. Again, buying cars that can, hold their value. That's an important thing. It's not common, but I think more and more people are looking for used cars, because new cars are just so expensive to buy and to finance. So just look after your things. Again, these are assets. So the more you look after the vehicle, the more value they'll retain. But most things, as you know, are depreciating assets. It's very rare you're going to get even 50 cents on your dollar if you buy something. So make sure, buy it used if you can, and maintain it so that you maintain the value.
100%. Terry's asking, do you have a website? Yes, I've been throwing it in the banner here for Tanya's website here.
Yeah, finsmart.ca. You can find me there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at GetFinSmart. And I'm going to be really honest with the audience. I'm not big onto social media. I have a presence, but, I like doing the work. I'm not a content creator. I know that's really important, but as you can tell from this conversation, I'm very passionate about this topic. I'm very qualified to work with you. But I haven't, done a lot of content creation because I choose how I'm using my time, and I love public speaking. I love being, on a podcast like this, Brittney. So again, thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing to be in front of your audience here. But ultimately, just get in touch, and I offer a complimentary clarity call with anyone, and you can book me at getfinsmart.as.me or just send me an email at tanya@finsmart.ca.
Amazing. And then I just threw up your PDF, your 10 steps to financial wellness. Is with, if anyone's listening, it's live on the YouTube channel that you can come in and get the URL. But we're already at time. See, I told you the hour would go really fast.
It does. It does. It does. It does.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for coming in and talking to all of us, our listeners. I know everyone, we had so many great takeaways today.
And I can end it with one more, if you don't mind,
Yes.
Brittney.
Yes.
And this kind of comes from Warren Buffett, who was one of the most successful investors on the planet. He didn't build a business. He was an entrepreneur. He was simply an investor. But we all need to build wealth. I talked about your future self. There's going to be a day when you can't work, you can't earn income. So we all need to build some wealth for our future. And the only way to build wealth is this. Wealth is at the intersection of discipline and opportunity. So if you look at the backstory of any successful person, they have had discipline to achieve what they've achieved, and then they've also seized opportunity. Whether it was Jeff Bezos, having that discipline to start out in his garage selling books, then expanding his services into his current massive empire. But it also comes down to us as individuals. If we're disciplined in how we manage our money and how we make smart financial decisions, and then we seek out opportunity to optimize our finances, whether it's how we spend, save, invest, those two things combined, discipline and opportunity, will help you build wealth. And of course, the earlier you get started, the easier it will be. So please, I hope this conversation inspires you to start learning today.
Yes. Thank you, Tanya, again for coming on the show. We'll definitely have you back next year, hopefully. You're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. Thank you, everyone, listening today, and UFO Paranormal Radio Network and United Public Radio Network. With that, everyone, please remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. We'll see you next week with our guest, Nadine's back. Thank you.